Welcome, everyone, to this episode of the Credit Union Connection. I am here with PR legend, Walt Laskos.
Legend? I don't know if I'd call that. I'd be like,
You've done so much in the credit union market over your career, but so tell us a little bit about it.
well, I mean, it started way back 2000 at Western Corporate Federal Credit Union, the infamous, I should say, West Corp. Um, Spent about 10 years there, and really, that's where I got to really become ingrained, I guess you could say, in the credit union culture. Became a DE and drank the Kool-Aid, made connections across the country. And it all took off after West Corp, after those 10 years.
Yep. See, something positive came out of it. So got another credit union Kool-Aid drinker. The reason I reached out to you was because you all at the Cooperative Credit Union Association are starting this video tour for public relations, which I love because credit unions, and we'll get into that later, not so much into that. But yeah, tell us about the tour that you're doing.
Well, one of the things that I realized after so many years, I mean, I have a lot of family members that are in public relations. My wife worked at some of the big PR firms in the country. And so I've really been exposed to what was called satellite media tours. And I guess the best way to explain it is Hollywood, the industry used to use it as they used to do press junkets where they would get, let's say, Sarah is the leading actress in this new movie that's coming out. So they want to promote that to all the entertainment reporters throughout the country. So Sarah, they would take you to a TV studio, put the camera on you, by satellite time. And then the PR agency would pitch all the different entertainment reporters throughout the country and say, hey, you could have a 10-minute interview with Sarah and talk about the latest movie that she's in, the whole bit. Well, the reporters would jump on that. They would all sign up for 10-minute blocks of time so that each one of them could ask you, basically you get to answer the same questions over and over for all the different reporters that would be calling you. But then they would take that video, they would use it as part of their news that evening or whatever their programming is, and you get exposure all throughout the country. So I'm looking at that and I'm saying, you have these satellite media tours. Well, today we have the internet. And through the internet and streaming, it works wonderfully. Why don't we do an internet media tour? And by the way, you could look this up on Google, internet media tours, satellite media tours, and get all the details. So I'm not really talking about anything that's like new and just to me, but this is something that the industry is doing, that a lot of agencies are doing, PR agencies. So I go, we talk so many times within the credit union system about gaining free unpaid exposure, and we need to tell our stories. So, working with the media the whole bit, that you really today you really have to present it on a silver platter to the news media. Obviously, you have to have a story, something that's going to attract attention. But we have so many stories to tell, and we don't tell them. This is a way that we could deliver it directly to reporters, give them an opportunity for interviews. So I tested it out. I connected with Cross State Credit Union Association last year. We went down to a credit union house. I set up all my gear on the outdoor second floor patio, right? So you can see the Capitol Rotunda in the background.
That's
And we brought,
beautiful. Yeah.
and we brought people in, and we, put them in front of the camera, and through the internet lined up reporters that could actually conduct an interview with the people right there on the roof, that were hiking the hill. And it worked. And the Cross State's got some great exposure out of this. So, when I look at it, I have the gear, I have the equipment. It's what I'm trying to do is to advocate to communicators, to PR folks, and marketing folks throughout the industry that consider the use of an internet media tour and what that entails as another tool in your tool chest to gain free, media exposure for your stories.
Right. And free doesn't necessarily mean it's easy, right?
That's true.
It's
But the thing is, we're not paying for that media
right.
exposure, so that's a freedom. It does cost to when you're bringing the equipment in. There's some associated costs with that. But I have to say, Sarah, and again, you know this as well too, that we you have to it has to start with a story, right? Because
Absolutely.
I think a lot of times people think that, well, we gave a $500 check to Special Olympics so we could get we could go out and tell all the reporters about this. But if we're starting a new program in the inner city for the underserved, talking about how to establish credit or how to buy your first home and giving them the resources and tools. Now, if you approach the proper editors with that, you got a story there. And you can really tell that story. So it starts with that, but then it also starts this media tour with being able to pitch the media. So you really have to, and I know we talk. I'm part of a special committee or communications committee with the ACUL, and we talk about the relationships that you really need to have with the news media, and some credit unions, or I should say, some associations have relationships with PR agencies. So the PR agencies oftentimes have daily one-on-one contact with a lot of these reporters, and they're very good at pitching. So maybe it's using an agency to do some of this pitching and lining it up. We provide the story, we provide the technology, they pitch the story, they line up the reporters. Then you use something like StreamYard, with high end, high definition quality. You're delivering high quality video. And we're seeing this right now on the cable systems. They do interviews all the time, bringing people in over the internet, and it works perfectly fine. And we could deliver the same kind of quality.
Yeah, and I think it's important you noted, maybe bringing in a PR agency, because you may have a story that is very appealing to the masses, but what is going to be appealing to that reporter or that editor, that
Hmm.
producer, right? It's a different angle to take because
That's
they have a time slot to fill, they have a dog to walk, they have,
That's right. Yeah, and the thing is, what might be appealing to somebody that's in the news media in Boston may not be the same in Philadelphia or Miami or in Los Angeles. I mean, it varies, about what's really uh, being discussed. And I think, and I'd be curious to hear your thoughts on this as well too, because when you think about it, uh, it's how much we could touch on a subject that hits home to the local audience. And I think
Mhm.
that's what the reporters are looking for. They're looking for stories that really touch my readers or
Mhm.
the viewers on my evening news show or on my public affairs news show Sunday morning. What topic am I talking that is impacting that audience? If you have something that's impacting that audience, now you got their attention. But I think a lot of times we try to pitch stories that it doesn't hit home.
And I think, yeah, one of the problems I talk about regularly with my clients and others is the narcissism in storytelling. It's not about you, it's about the client, the end user, their benefits. I know, when we met, you were at Westcor, I was at Credit Union Times. And, we would get press releases about a branch opening that are clearly targeted to the local market, which is great,
Hmm.
but it's useless to Credit Union Times. It's, what is the technology investment there? What is the the ROI? How many members do you expect to bring? Those kind
Hmm.
of things that can be helpful. So just knowing the media outlets audience and then targeting it appropriately, the same story can be valuable to more than one.
Well, that's right, and it's just as you say. It's not about the new branch opening, but what specifically that you're doing there that maybe
Mhm.
can hit home with others throughout the country, like you say, the technology or something. Or oftentimes I'll think about, well, we're giving a $500 check to Special Olympics, as I kind of referenced earlier. Well, why would I have maybe the CEO and somebody from Special? Why don't you get some of the kids
Exactly.
on camera talking about how they enjoy Special Olympics and all that? And now you can see the impact that $500 has.
Mhm.
Then that hits home. That gets attention.
So much more valuable than throwing a release out on the wires and see what sticks, right?
Yeah.
Because if you have that image of the kids enjoying a new playground, that a credit union sponsored,
Mhm.
um, far more valuable because images, as much as I love words and writing, images tell a story like nothing else, and in video in particular.
Oh, exactly. Now that's another thing too, is news releases. You know, you constantly hear some people say, "Oh yeah, do a news release, do a news release," and then they'll send them out just point blank all over the place.
Hmm.
What kind of value is that? You
I saw
know?
a release the other day that literally said, I'm going to protect the guilty, but it literally said, so and so is out about that. So and so is out promoting us. Like it was their own leader of the organization was out promoting, and that was the headline. It's like, who
Oh
cares,
my.
right?
Yeah. 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 But it's so, and the thing is, I honestly, I could see putting time into doing a news release for two aspects of this, two concepts. One is to put it on my website for the credit union, because a lot of times if people are looking for a job or whatever and they're referencing your credit, they'll go back, they'll look at the news releases to see what you do, how
Hmm.
you perform in the community. Another might be for the small local community papers. They're always looking for content, and they'll practice. Some of them will take it verbatim and just dump it in the paper again, provided it's a halfway decent story. But that's the extent of it. I mean, I think that if we're looking for something that you want to get a greater attention, then it really comes down to relationships with the news media, having a personal relationship, having a reporter that knows you, so that maybe you could call and you could say, "Hey, we're doing this the whole bit. I'll send this along. If it's worth the story, fine. They'll follow up. If not, hey, you tried it. You played a
Hmm.
card." But there has to be that kind of engagement. You just don't send it out and sit back and go, "Well, now it's in the news." It doesn't work like that.
Nope, absolutely. And I love the point you make, and especially in B2B, it is still about relationships. It's still about human feelings about whatever it is, whether it's about how well they do their job, whether it's how stressed they are about the next
Mhm.
promotion. It is still about feelings.
Yeah.
Data to
Well,
support it,
well,
but
you know what? Now this might be, I don't know. We're kind of maybe talking to the choir here, you and I,
yeah.
from our standpoint. But I oftentimes think to myself is, how come, you don't see leagues or credit unions trying to do something about engaging or enhancing relationships with the news media? And I guess what I get at there is I know some other organizations that I've been, part of, and some of those organizations, what they'll do is it's like they will give some type of, when they do their awards program on an annual basis, they'll give recognition and award to a local reporter for the story they did talking about homelessness in the inner city,
Mm.
or the underserved, and no recourse to money and checking accounts and that sort of thing. Why don't why don't some leagues or CUNA or NAFCU or whoever it is, you know, do some type of an outreach where we are recognizing some of the reporters for some of the good reporting that they do, the journalistic skills, or even as part of that, then you put out scholarships for journalists so that we
Mm-hmm.
could help enhance telling the story to, and I'll tell you something like that I think would go a long way. I brought that point up a lot of times in discussions with the news media as well too. And some of them will go, well, no, that's almost like you're paying the press, but not necessarily. I think everyone deserves recognition for the damn good job and work that they do, and journalists especially, reporters especially. When you do a damn good job, you should be recognized for that and applauded for it.
Because yeah, when people think of the media, sometimes we're thinking cable news or we're thinking the big guys, and that is not. As a recovering reporter, that's not real journalism a lot of
Hmm.
the time. It's digging in, it's really getting to know the community that you're serving as a journalist. And there are still much more of them out there than there are the others that everybody rails against. So
Exactly. And
yeah.
and just what I was saying too, you also get the standpoint where I bet you there are a number of people would not agree with me relative to giving recognition to the news media, because there's a lot within the credit union system when they fear the press, because they fear that, oh my God, they're going to put a microphone on my face. They're going to put the camera on me, and what do I say? And is and do I have somebody write up memorize lines what I'm saying? I
Mhm.
mean, my God, we have a story to tell. That, why do we have this attitude that the press is there to come out and crucify you? Thing is, if anything, here's another thing that I've advocated for: media training.
Yes.
There should be a lot more opportunities for CEOs, for spokespeople at credit unions and at leagues and associations to be media trained, because there is a knack to how to do it properly and to be prepared to speak and be comfortable in front of that microphone or in front of that TV camera. And we're not doing enough there.
Yeah, that's the perfect segue into what I was going to ask about next. So, I mean, I 100% agree with media training. I think that I 100% also agree. I don't think I know. I 100% agree that the media is not out to get you. And I think that's part of it. You're right. I also feel like a lot of people, it's sort of a imposter syndrome thing. You know more about your credit union, about offering proper loans, about making, good decisions with, credit, things like that, than the reporters do. You know more than they do. So, you are an authority, you are a thought leader. Go out there and offer that up to them, because that is such a valuable resource for a reporter to be able to go to.
Yeah.
Personal finance is huge right
Oh, exactly. And the thing is too, it's like, why would we be fearful of controlling the discussion? Because if you have proper media training, you could have a critical situation that you need to be answering questions to the press. And if you're trained properly, those are really opportunities for the credit union or for you to control the dialogue, to control the discussion, to control the headlines. So many, to such a respect. I mean, think of a lot of these press secretaries in the White House when they get in front of in the press room. I mean, my God, some of them, the amazing jobs that they do
now.
of
Yes.
how they control, the topic and the discussion. And that's a perfect example of people that are well media trained. And I also should say that this is something that you don't get media trained when you're 20 years old and now you're 50 and you haven't been media trained since, because it's like skills. It's, the more you use it, the better you get at it, and it's like you're exercising. So you need to be refreshed in those skills. And I think it's an opportunity where it's an ongoing training. It's not just once done and over with.
Yeah, absolutely. So, what are your top tips that you would include in like a media training? What do executives or people who are going to be talking to the press from credit unions need to know?
Well, first of all, I'm going to make a confession, because I'm one of those that, yeah, I've been media trained, and how often have I gone back and been refreshed in it? So am as guilty as the person next door. All right. So let me just be straight up and honest with that.
Again, we're
Uh,
human.
yes, exactly. And finding time to do it. However, I think if the opportunity exists, it's something we definitely want to jump on. And it comes down to it always. I think the key thing here, when you're looking at media training, and if you're going to be engaged with a reporter, and whether it be a newspaper or radio or television, it's what are your three key messages. At least have three key messages, so that if anything, and this is tough, but if anything, when that interview's over with and the audience hears it, what do you want that audience to remember most about what you just said? And if it is, a lot of times, even one of those key messages that you might repeat over and over, and don't be afraid to repeat. I mean, all you got to do is watch these, lawmakers and the folks in Washington. Just watch how they get when they're interviewed Sunday mornings and the news, those news programs. They're so trained, and they get their three key messages. And no matter what the reporter asks, so you're asking me what are the key things? I'm going to talk about this, because this is the point I want to make, and I'll just keep on referring back to it and back to it and back to it, repeating. So that, well,
Yeah.
you might go as a reporter and go, like, God, that was an awful interview. They just kept on saying the same damn thing over and over. But if I got a block of time, if I have this opportunity, and this is my main point that I want to put out there,
Yep.
right?
Talking points, very important. Having talking
Yes.
points, not a script. Oh my goodness.
That's right. And don't come across like it's memorized. I mean,
Yes.
how many times we see that too, where, somebody's going to be interviewed and they get in front of the camera, a reporter, and it's so staged. It's like, oh my God, somebody fed him or her those lines. No, no, no. You have to talk, at random, like it's from the heart and from your soul, and this is what it's about. And I think that's when it also conveys the authenticity that
Yes.
you're
How
that you
you
could be
say it.
believed. Yes.
How you say it versus what you say. Yeah, absolutely. I totally agree with that. Yeah, because one of the things I always also preach to my clients, as I mentioned earlier, is like the story is not about you, it's about the end user. And so there are a lot of feelings, and I am not a touchy-feely person, but I keep making this point, reiterating to get
Mhm.
my point across, because you do have to repeat it to get people to comprehend it and to save it in their memory box.
That's right.
Uh, but yeah, it's about finding the feelings, whether it's B2C or B2B media. People have feelings, and I don't know. There are so many stories. One of my clients that gets the best media coverage is because we rarely write about them. It's almost always focused on the client, the credit union that is succeeding or whatever.
Mhm.
And people like to see winners. They like to see success. I know in my media days, as a journalist, I would have said, um, if things are going as they're supposed to, that's not news,
Mhm.
which can be true.
Yeah, yeah, that's right. Was it, if it bleeds, it leads?
Yes. We didn't have too much bloodshed in trade press, but
Well, there could be sometimes
there,
there is. I think here's something where we had an opportunity, or I exercised one of the typical tactics that one might do when you're looking for media attention. And that is kind of tag on as a tell to a story that's in the news. And by that I mean, is this an example? Um, Geez, a couple of years ago, we at CCUA were running a program called Senior Safeguard, and we were out and doing a lot of community involvement, engagement, uh, talking to senior citizens to help them understand all the different financial scams and fraud taking place. Because the more educated they are, the more they could protect themselves. So we're all doing everything we can with that. Getting panel discussions together with, the chief of police, the mayor, the local DA, credit union representatives, and doing a panel discussion, having lunch with the seniors, and those things went over very, very well. Well, it just so happened that in Quincy, I'm reading the Boston Globe, and I'm seeing that in Quincy, there's a story about this cab driver who picked up a senior citizen. She got in the cab and she said, take me to Lowe's. Okay, so he's driving her to Lowe's and he's going, she's like 70 some years old. She's going to Lowe's. So he engaged her in conversation, the taxi cab driver, and he asked her, he goes, so what are you going to Lowe's for? Well, my son's been arrested and I got a call and I need to go and buy all these gift cards and send them so that I could help my grandson, get out of jail. And the cabbie goes like, well, lady, I think you're being scammed. So what does he do? He drives her to the Quincy Police Department instead. Saved her literally from being scammed
mhm,
of thousands of dollars. So I'm saying that, I'm going like, oh my God, this fits in, doesn't it, with all the stuff that the credit unions are doing about senior safeguard and protecting seniors from fraud. So I called Quincy Credit Union and I go, would you partner with us? Maybe we could each give like $500 each and we'll do a check presentation at the Quincy Senior Citizens Center for education for the seniors to protect them from financial scams, and it'll be representative of the Massachusetts credit unions. They jumped on it. I got a hold of the senior center. They were on it. We had television coverage,
mhm.
newspaper coverage, the whole bit. But the catch there was the timeliness. This
Yes.
had to be maybe a week to no more than 2 weeks after I read that in the paper, because this has to still be within the minds of the reporters and the audience that this happened. And it was over. And it was, I mean, it was great coverage. I'm sure the videos on YouTube of this, of the
Mhm.
coverage that we got for it. But it was one of those things where you just watch what's going on in day to day in the community. If you see something that ties in with what you're doing, jump on it and you could turn it into a free PR media event for yourself.
Yeah, and that's absolutely a great point, because one of the things I feel like trips up a lot of credit unions and their business partners and stuff is we got to go through compliance. They don't have a system in place to respond to something like that. How do you set that up?
Oh my God. But I have to say, it's probably every PR person's or even the reporters thinks this, once you start getting the lawyers involved and everybody else, all they do is just like change this word, change that word, and then it's no longer an authentic story. It's not, and reporters have, and I'm not saying any more on that because I'll get myself into trouble. So I'll just avoid it.
Well, I was talking to a compliance lawyer not long ago, and she was saying, one of the best things you can do is just story tell. This is a compliance story. She's like, don't promote your products or your services, because then you got to have the APY and the
Mhm.
disclosures and that kind of stuff. If you're not talking about your products or services, then you don't need me.
Yeah.
So she said that's the best scenario.
Yeah, and that sounds great. I mean, you talk about the culture, you talk about what the credit union is about and what you stand for, what you believe in, your values. I mean, my God, every credit union is a financial co-op. It's founded on principles, cooperative principles and cooperative values. I mean, you bring those to life, and I think in your storytelling, and you'll always be safe.
Hmm. Yeah, absolutely. So, any parting words of wisdom, Walt, on credit unions and how they can really leverage PR?
Well, the, th- I've often said in the past that credit unions are very good when it comes to marketing because they're looking at the auto loans, housing loans, products, all that's all market. And when you think about it, marketing and this is my take on it, and I could be wrong, and I know others, in our profession might disagree, but I see marketing associated with making money. It's advertising. You got products, you have whatever you're going to sell, you're putting it out there, you're promoting it so that you could achieve income from it. Public relations, oftentimes I call that as the fertilizer.
Mhm.
That might not be a good way to say it, but it sets up the brand, it sets up the image.
Mhm.
Before you even get into selling and marketing, advertising, one should be doing PR. One should be out there in the community exposing your brand, what your values are, what you stand for, because then consumers will go, I like them. I like what they stand for. But no, oh wait, now you have a loan for a car? Okay. Then that's a natural follow-up to once people see and engage and have a relationship with you based upon what you stand for, based upon your storytelling.
Yeah.
So I think that credit unions need to engage more in the world of public relations. We do great when it comes to marketing and advertising. And even though public relations is part of that advertising and marketing world, it still is distinct in my book. And
Mm.
I really believe credit unions do not give it the value. I mean, how many vice presidents of PR do we know at credit unions or
Yeah,
leagues
very, very
across the
few.
country? Very few.
Yeah,
Very few.
very
We
few. And
still don't get it. And then you always hear, well, we don't tell our story. We don't. Well, yeah, because you hardly have any PR people doing that
mhm.
stuff.
Yep.
Need I say
And
more?
everybody thinks brand awareness is just getting their logo out there or whatever their
Yes.
color, their brand colors. And no, it absolutely is
Yeah.
goes much deeper than that.
That's right.
But they can't attach an ROI. There's no
Exactly.
direct
Yeah, exactly.
income.
Well, when you see that Mercedes logo, I mean, what does that stand for? I think for all of us, we go like German engineering class. This is it's or like the Ritz Carlton. The Ritz
Mhm.
Carlton logo is the same thing. It has established a feeling, a sense about seeing that logo of what that brand stands for. It's quality. I
Mhm.
might be paying a little bit more, but I'm getting quality.
Mhm.
And that's what, when you talk about brand identity and cultivating your brand presence within the community, it's the same thing. I think you want to make sure that it's a daily thing. It needs to be done over and over. But the objective there is to get the audience to feel the same way you feel about the Ritz Carlton or the Mercedes. That
Right.
this is a place that I trust, that's quality, and I want to go to. I want to engage with.
100%. Awesome. Well, great talking with you today, Walt. I appreciate it.
Thank you, Sarah, for giving me the time and the platform for this, and to catch up with you as well too. I appreciate it very much.
Absolutely. Thank you.